This is a thank you 10 years in the making. It dates back to 2008 when I was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia. I was 27 years old and cancer was the last thing on my mind. The doctors at Toronto's Princess Margaret Hospital told me I would need many rounds of chemotherapy and ultimately a bone marrow transplant. And judging by my labs, they predicted I had about a 40 to 50% chance of surviving. Still numb from that news, I remember grabbing a coin from my desk when I got home that day. I figured if my odds of surviving were basically a coin flip, I'd see what luck had to say about it. I tossed the coin into the air and said, "Heads I live, tails I die." Although I was happy to see it land head side up, I also knew I was going to need a lot more than luck in my corner if I had any hope of getting through this. At first, my mind went to the obvious things: my team of doctors, nurses, radiologists, pharmacists. But as my treatment got underway, I also started to appreciate another essential team member, the blood donor. You see, as the chemo did its thing, beating the crap out of the cancerous cells in my body, it was also taking a toll on my healthy blood cells. And that meant that periodically, my blood count would dip seriously low, and I need a blood transfusion or two before I could get back into the ring for another round of chemo. Then there was my bone marrow transplant. After discovering that none of my 7 siblings were a match for me, the transplant team broadened their search to the national and international bone marrow registries. It took a while, but eventually we found a match. A donor from Europe who was willing to provide some of his or her healthy stem cells to save the life of a complete stranger on the other side of the ocean. And while finding my match was a huge obstacle to clear, the road ahead would prove to be the most dangerous part of my journey yet. My doctor started by completely wiping out my old defective stem cells with some extremely powerful chemo and radiation to make way for the new stuff from my European superstar. However, once I received my new blood cells, it would take 3 weeks for them to engraft to my marrow and start producing blood. With my old immune system destroyed, my body was left defenseless during that time, and unable to produce new blood on its own. Antibiotics and other medications help prevent infections, but once again it was the near daily blood and platelet transfusions that kept me going until my new system kicked in. My new blood producing cells eventually did kick in, and slowly but surely started making healthy blood again. It was a tough slog, but I'm happy to report that I've been completely cancer-free since my transplant, and I've been doing great. To this day, I'm struck by the significance of blood donors during my treatment. Because the thing is, I was treated at one of the best cancer hospitals on the planet. A hospital filled with the best healthcare professionals, the finest multi-million-dollar pieces of lab equipment, and the latest cutting-edge pharmaceuticals. And yet, none of that would have mattered without blood donors. It's amazing to think that one of the foundational pieces of our medical system relies on the generosity of everyday people. Simply put, I would not be here today without those people. And they didn't just save my life, they allowed me to keep living. Now that might sound like an arbitrary distinction, but for me it's important to thank donors not only for what they did for me a decade ago, but what that help has allowed me to do since. They've allowed me to embark on adventures all over the world. In the past 10 years, I've ziplined through the jungles of Costa Rica, joined the Sourdough Cocktail Club in the Yukon, hiked across a glacier in Iceland, and gone scuba diving in Panama. They've also enabled me to pursue adventures closer to home, allowing me to write books, build an online magazine, become a professional speaker, and create these videos. They've allowed me to build my own tiny house and move back to the country. Thanks to blood donors, I've had the pleasure of watching Walter White build a meth empire, Jaime Lannister lose a hand, and Eleven kick Demogorgon butt. Most importantly, they've given me more time with the people I love. They've enabled beers on the back porch, random board game nights, and the opportunity to dance like an idiot at a friend's wedding. They've even allowed me to reconnect and fall madly in love with the woman I took to high school prom 20 years ago. In short, blood donors changed my story from this to this. And for that, I just want to say thanks.